Yes, hello everyone, Fáilte Rash, Goody Cúilín Media. Welcome back to another weekend review show. It is myself, Séamus Brady, joined by Matthew Hurley and Aaron Prendergast. And by God, do we have a lot to get through. Round 6 of the National Football Leagues, round 4 of the National Camogie Leagues, as well as some isolated postponed action from the National Hurling League and the National LGFA League as well. As I mentioned, joined by Matthew Hurley and Aaron Prendergast, and big shout out as well to Peter Griffin and to Ryan Gallagher leading the charge in the live chat here. If you are new on the channel, please do get involved in a live chat. Let us know what your highlights were from the weekend, everything like that. But yeah, Aaron, in terms of from our perspective, you were in Croke Park yesterday for the two games, the Tyrone Meath and the Dublin Armagh. What did you make of them?
Yeah, I was in for the last kind of 5-10 minutes of Meath's Tyrone, so I didn't see the full game. I only kind of caught the end of it. But yeah, it looked like a big win for Meath. They obviously came through at the end when Tyrone could have pulled the game back. But for the Dublin Armagh game, yeah, it was very disappointing in the end. For the opening 40-50 minutes, Dublin were very good. We did a lot right. It was probably our best performance, even better than the Roscommon performance for the opening 15 minutes, just because I think Armagh are a better team than Roscommon, in my opinion. I think Armagh are one of the teams that are closest to both Donegal and Kerry, in my opinion. And I think, look, they showed that towards the end of the game. But I think it was more just disappointment and frustration with how we fell apart. You know, to have an 11-point lead, I know with conditions and everything else, that plays a big part in other games, but there was no wind in Croke Park, so this was not condition-related in any way whatsoever. Dublin panicked, and we lost our train of thought. Kickouts were poor, mostly down to players not shown for kickouts, not necessarily anything got to do with the goalkeeper, in my opinion. And we just fell apart, and look, fair play, it was culminated with Armagh being the better side towards the end and coming good, coming strong. I think Armagh fans outnumbered us in Croke Park as well. So that very much
very well, to be fair to them.
They do, yeah, and you could tell, because when they got big points and a goal, I think that lifted the players. Do you know what I mean? And you could feel the Dublin players kind of shrivel a little bit in those moments. So yeah, look, disappointment, but it's not done and dusted. Looking at Galway today, I do think we can beat Galway. I think we've a better chance at beating Galway than Armagh beating Kerry, mainly because I think Kerry are a significantly better team than Galway, in my opinion. So look, it's not all done, but it is going to be tough.
And weirdly enough as well, Roscommon's win now, Matthew, that means that Kerry have something to play for, because places in the league final still are up for grabs. It's not a guarantee that Kerry are going to be in the league final. So they are going to go out with something to play for against Armagh, which ironically helps us.
Possibly, yeah. Like I'd say, it's almost like the rugby situation yesterday. Ireland fans shown for England, wouldn't it be? Dublin fans shown for Kerry, but yeah, it's a tricky situation, I suppose, that you're in terms of the relegation fight. Galway, I expected them to beat Monaghan today, so I'm not really too much into that performance, in all fairness. But it will be a difficult game for Kerry to go up to the Athletic Grounds and win that. Like, I was expecting totally Donegal to win the game against Roscommon, and that would be Roscommon involved in the relegation scrap as well. But no, it actually turns out Mayo and Roscommon, that game next week, could, well, depending on other results, that could be a league semi-final sort of as well. So obviously if one of Donegal or Kerry lose, so a lot to play for next week. Like, I think actually I counted even before coming on air here, out of the 32 counties involved in the national leagues, 28 of them have at least something to play for on the final day. That's incredible when you think about it. I think the only 4 that have nothing to play for are Monaghan, Offaly, Clare and Waterford. I think they're the only 4, but the rest of them are down as well, so that's 5. But yeah, 5 counties, 27 counties have a lot to play for. That is setting up for an amazing final day of action.
Absolutely. So, and while we're touching on that final day of action, delighted to announce that we will be doing, Peter, you mentioned it on one of the previous shows, we will be doing a live watch along for the final day of the leagues. We will, myself and Aaron, and we'll be trying to get on whoever can come on. Matthew, we're not sure how your availability is, but whoever can come on will come on for certain bits. But myself and Aaron will be locked in at home for the day, and we will be doing a full live watch along, everything like that. And get involved in a live chat, because Super Sunday is going to be on TG Cars. We're going to have all the screens in front of us, and we're going to be reacting in real time to whether the Dubs stay up or go down. So that could be pretty special viewing one way or the other, whether you love us or hate us. Peter here saying, yeah, well, Peter, you'll be there with us, I hope. Eamon also here saying, evening, lads. Love this show. Thank you very much. Commiserations, Séamus and Aaron. Eamon from Portadown, County Armagh, up Ardvacha. And Kieran also says, all to play for next week. Always still not safe. They still have to try to put on a performance. And yeah, we're getting a lot of love for the Super Sunday, which we love to see. Yeah, it's a great idea from Peter to go for it. So we are going to go for it. We have the availability. So let's do it. And before we move into the games as well, I want to give a big shout out as well to the club players of the year for all 4 codes. They were announced across the weekend. For the men's football, Tom O'Sullivan from Donegal was the player of the year. For the men's hurling, Déise Hutchinson from Ballygunner. The LGFA, Siobhan Divley from Kilkerran Clonberne. And the Camogie was Lisa Casterly from Athenry. So absolute major congratulations to all 4 players, 4 worthy winners. And we are going to move into the games now because we do have a lot to get through. And we're going to go straight back to Croke Park, Karen. 125 to Dublin, 224 to Armagh. It is a massive, massive win for the Orchard County because as we were talking about it, they weren't mathematically down, but if they lost this game, they were as good as down. So when they're back against the wall, to be fair to them, they were facing an uphill battle, but 1-3 each from Keane McConville, Oisin Connaughty. Huge win for Armagh because their backs are against the wall. They lose this game, they're down. 1-3 each from Keane McConville and Oisin Connaughty, and especially Oisin Connaughty's goal was a dagger into Dublin's heart. And now Armagh have given themselves a real shot of survival.
Yeah, absolutely. As I was saying there, like, I mean, in the opening, you couldn't have asked for more on the first half from Dublin. It was brilliant. I think almost everybody around me were almost surprised. It felt like it was a bit of a throwback to Dublin in their pomp. You know, Dublin in the Leinster Championship against Kildare, Meath, where we're just absolutely dominating the team. And it felt very like that. We couldn't do much wrong. You know, Luke Breathnach was absolutely brilliant. He was outstanding. Ross McGarry obviously gets the goal. Noel Scully, who I think, to be fair, like in back-to-back performances, he's been very, very good now. He was brilliant against Roscommon, very good in this game as well, in terms of scoring points and also controlling the game and everything else. And it was vintage Dublin. We were turning Armagh over. Armagh were getting a lot of their kickouts off. They were going short with their kickouts and they were going straight through our centre. And that was a bit of a worry. Like, that was obviously how the Keane McConville goal came about. And we were struggling a little bit in regards to that, but at times we were still able to turn them over. We were still able to kind of get good blocks and good challenges in, and we started with great energy. And I think Armagh were surprised by it. To be honest with you, I think they were a little bit kind of caught flat-footed. I don't think they expected us to be as good as we were. We built up a big lead. Like Sean Bugler gets that 2-pointer right at the end of the half from an Armagh error, and you're thinking, right, 115 to I think 1-6 at half time. You couldn't have asked for anything better. And in the second half, like, even, you know, like, I felt like we were managing the game all right. Like, Armagh were kind of dragging it back, but we were just doing enough. We were taking away with scores. Patrick Burn was getting points. Then all of a sudden you're seeing Cormac Costello and Kieran Kilkenny coming off the bench, and you're thinking, right, you know, this is we're going to see this through. Yeah, but ironically, the kind of opposite happens. Like, I think Luke Breathnach, went off with an injury, so that was obviously a big blow. I think Costello, I don't think he had the sharpness, to be honest with you. I understand why we put him on. Obviously, with Breathnach's injury, we kind of have to put him on there, and same obviously with Kieran Kilkenny as well. But yeah, we just fell apart. All of a sudden, kickouts going astray, shot selection was poor, and Armagh started to turn us over. And as I was saying, once they got a bit of momentum with the crowd and everything else, they were dominant. Oisin Connaughty obviously getting a big goal as well, like a massive goal, when he didn't even need to get the goal as well. Like, he could have just put it over the bar. I wish he had just put it over the bar, but he put it straight in the back of the net. And yeah, I think I knew at that point, like, the feeling, it was like everyone was just demoralised around the ground other than the Armagh fans. And he just knew at that moment we were coming back. And we did. I think Ger Brennan put it well in his post-match interview. The senior players didn't show enough leadership. They didn't put their hands up to get the ball. You are looking at players like Kilkenny and others to step up in those moments to settle things down. The younger players, I don't really have an issue too much with. It's a new experience for them, coming up against a great team. So I don't really blame them whatsoever. But look, it is a learning curve, and hopefully they can hopefully they will learn from it. I think there are more positives than negatives looking back on it now in the game, but I think that closing out of a game, I think that needs to be worked on.
Yeah, I think, is it a case, because we're seeing a lot of comments here, like Grand Admiral Dane saying colossal fumble for Dublin, whereas Kieran Hockin is then talking about the great comeback from Armagh in the second half. Like, Matthew, is it, like, there's two different ways to look at this. Armagh came back. Is it a case that Dublin threw it away, or that Armagh, through tweaking certain things, are the ones who deserve the credit more so? And if so, what did they change?
Armagh deserve credit because they performed well over the last few weeks and have just not been getting the results. And I think they got the rub of the green on Saturday. Obviously, there was periods of the game where Dublin were dominant, but to be fair to Armagh, they dug in and they got the results, which they haven't been doing over the last few weeks, and they deserved that bit of luck, I suppose. And like, Armagh performed well. Like, let's call a spade a spade. They have performed well in recent rounds. They should have beat Galway. They should have at least got a win over Mayo as well, over in Castlebar. They should have got a lot more wins than they did. And I think, honestly, it's just as simple as this. I know it's not tactics or anything, but it's as simple as this. Armagh deserved the rub of the green, and they got it on Saturday with Oisín Conti's goal. I think Oisín actually mentioned in his interview as well, it was about time he put a ball into the back of the net, because he's been missing so many over the last few weeks. And look, I just think Armagh just wanted it more in the last few minutes. We said it during the week, saying that who needs the win more, whereas Dublin, they may have needed the win to make absolutely sure of safety. It wasn't an 100% must. For Armagh, they had to win today, especially what Galway did. As it turned out, if Dublin would have hung on to the win, Armagh would be relegated. And we would have been talking about this here, saying how many times have Armagh screwed up games in decent positions when they were performing well. But to be fair to them, they dug out the results when they needed them most, and that could give them a lot of confidence, not just for the Kerry game next week, but a lot of confidence for later on in the championship as well. Because like, this Armagh team needed confidence, not performance, not fellas stepping up, confidence. And I think they would have got that after the win last night.
Absolutely. No, there's no question about it. We've plenty of comments flying in here. Peter saying, Séamus, Aaron, goalkeeping dilemma for the Dubs. What call would you make pre-Champo? I'd go with Hugh O'Sullivan. Aaron, would you agree?
Yeah, I'd keep it with Hugh O'Sullivan as well. Like, he still made big saves yesterday. Thought his kickouts were spot on in the first half. I think in the second half, like, we've had a perfect view of it from on the hill. There wasn't enough players showing from him. He didn't have any options.
Yeah. No, I think it's always going to be difficult taking over from a legend like Cluxton, but we have chopped and changed and flipped and flopped, and that has an effect on the goalkeepers themselves and their confidence, but it also has an effect on the team, because they have to get used to the goalkeeper every time, used to the kick-out system, everything like that. Our fourth and final member of the pod, Liam White, who is out in Canada. I wasn't sure if I should say it until obviously he threw the comment in here. We say, greetings from Canada, my friends. Shame about today's results, but positive to see Dylan Hyland back and a couple of goals on to Meath next week before the championship. Ufalia Abu. Eamon also saying here, rumours circling that Rian O'Neill might be coming back. He is massive for Armagh and so influential. He is basically our David Clifford. I mean, that would be absolutely massive. Gaelic guy here, a proud Armagh fan, says, what a victory for Armagh. Superb goals and a vital lifeline. And Mag Online Wood says the Connaughty goal was a huge release of all the frustration of those last 4 games. Kieran says if he's ever seen a second half starting like that before with a free, no throw in. No. But yeah, we'll carry on. We'll go back into the next question here. So what does this result mean now in terms of, like, do you think, Aaron, that are we going to go down, or will we save ourselves? You said earlier, to be fair, and this isn't hindsight now where you know that we've lost this game and everything, you did say on the preview show that you thought we would lose this game, but that we beat Galway and stay up, and that Galway will be the ones to go down. We'll come to Galway's game against Monaghan. Are you still holding that position?
Yeah, I am. I think we will. I think if we play like we played like against Armagh, I think we'll beat Galway, in my opinion. Like I think looking at Galway today against Monaghan, like I thought they were quite poor enough. We'll get onto it. They were quite poor enough for 40 minutes. They came good towards the end of the game. They had a good sort of ending period. Their final quarter was very good. And look, we'll see. Could they spring Shane Walsh and a few of the other lads for this game? We'll see. To be fair, Rob Finnerty's been obviously in good form. But I think we can do it. I think the way we played against Armagh, look, fair enough, it did fall apart at the end. But I do think Armagh are a better team than Galway. And I know Galway came back like they did versus Kerry. And look, it will be tough. But I think we'll be better for it. I think with the younger players, like it was the first time really that a lot of them had actually been in this situation as well. Again, you know what I mean? Like we had, like against Roscommon, the game was done. The other games, we were chasing the games. So you're hoping they obviously learn. As Matthew was saying there as well, it is a must. So I think we will do it.
Yeah, I think we will as well. I think a lot of people forget we went away to them in the championship last year when we were heavily expected to lose quite significantly, and we got the job done. So this is a kind of similar case. Our backs are against the wall. We've a lot of comments here, Matthew, and I'll show this one to you next. Gaelic guy saying David Goff needs to be sacked immediately. Absolutely disgusting refereeing. Tiernan Kelly never should have seen red, and Jelly got a black card despite the Dublin fella hitting him. That started the scuffle. I've seen a lot of people as well quite conflicted about Brian Howard being sent off as well. We've get like a lot of comments in about the refereeing performance and everything like that. Matthew, did you see anything particular wrong with it, or are the comments a little bit too over extreme?
What I will say first of all, it's like the Family Guy scene with Quagmire about Brian with the tweet. I told you about Goff. I told you. I did tell you about this guy. Like I said it in the Cork and Kerry game in 2023, it's sort of decisions that he makes are very, very weird. I just think a lot of people are saying on social media that he wants to make it about himself at times. Maybe a small bit harsh in that kind of light, but at the same time, he makes some incredibly weird calls. The decision to send off Tiernan Kelly last night, I don't get it. Jardy O'Byrne's barely did anything, and he got a black. I don't know what goes through his head in terms of these decisions. Like he makes some, okay, he had some good displays in recent times. Obviously, the 2023 final was probably one of his better ones with the Dublin and Kerry game. But there are games where David Goff, gets decisions wrong, and he's almost like he wants to defend himself on podcasts and stuff. Like I remember actually going back 3 years ago, that decision in Parky Keeve, he actually went on Colin Parkins's podcast and he kind of explained the decision why to send off Sean Powter for the black card. And when he was talking, he was saying that he clearly dragged them down and things like that, but the reality was he actually went into his umpires to discuss the decision, so he wasn't totally sure. So it's something like that. I don't think he's a great referee in terms of that. I think he just makes some weird calls at weird times, and that scuffle in the tunnel at halftime, I think, look, I don't think he was the right referee in that scenario. Look, it is a tough job. Obviously, refereeing is a tough job, but it has to be said, over the last few years and certain games, David Goff has made some weird calls over the last few years. I don't know what you think about him, but I just feel like this has been a thing that's coming over the last few years. The decisions he's making and things like that, it's strange. I think the strange calls that he does make, he doesn't help himself by doing this.
Well, I remember the 5 in a row as well. The 5 in a row All-Ireland final. Like he does give some mad calls when he gave the penalty, which to be fair probably was, but it was so harsh, and it's the type of thing where, like, if you call someone for 5 steps, it's like, it's not that it wasn't a foul. You just very rarely see it given under those circumstances. He does have a little bit of a streak of making a decision that no one sees coming. Is he almost like Mark Clattenburg or something? Like, is it someone that then at the same time is all over the media? But no, like, I genuinely, it's a bit of a hot take, but I've seen him referee a lot of games, and I think he absolutely can be a very good ref. I agree with Gavin that I think it's become a thankless task and a very, very difficult game to ref now with the new rules. There's so many decisions that are hotly contested, but there were a few decisions yesterday that a lot of people disagree with. in terms of like the red card for Tierney Kelly, the red card for Brian Howard, the black card for Charlie O'Byrne. And when so many people are saying the same thing, you do kind of have to look into it a little bit. But yeah, just reflecting and recapping on kind of how I see it and my stance on it. Like, it's kind of weird as a Dublin fan. Like, it's kind of weird as a Dublin fan because it's a mixed bag. We had a fantastic first half. Sean Bugler was on fire. Killian McGuinness, I thought, looked very good. Paddy Small with 6 points. Niall Scully with 5 points. And we showed a lot in that first half that even though we ended up losing, I'm thinking, okay, we're moving in the right direction. There's a lot of lads that are making their mark on the team and everything like that. And we know that Ger Brennan coming in, a lot of the players from that golden 6-in-a-row team have moved on now, and it's time to transition to the next era. But that second half, we were at sea in terms of the defence, the way that Connaughty got through for the goal, everything like that. So there is a lot to reflect on. And going into that final week, I'm confident that we can get something in that game against Galway. I'm confident that we can get the win because we beat them in the championship last year when everybody expected us to get hammered. So yeah, only time will tell, but we'll see what happens. But yeah, we'll wrap up here on that game and we'll move on to the next one just after this comment from Eamon. He says, as an Armagh man, I've always loved Dublin and their fans, but sorry, Shane Stan, I don't see you beating Galway away. It's only a few weeks ago Galway were unlucky not to beat Donegal away. Yeah, that's very, very good point. I'm a little bit like, again, backs to the wall situation in a game like that. It's a toss up and just on the day we'll decide it. But we're going to move on now to the next game, the clash of Roscommon and Donegal in Dr. Hyde Park. And what a win this was for the Rossies. 220 to Roscommon, 20 points to Donegal in Dr. Hyde Park. Roscommon end Donegal's unbeaten streak. Enda Smith was absolutely fantastic. Diarmaid Murtagh was unbelievable. Conor Hand off the bench with Roscommon's second goal as well, which more or less sealed the victory for the Rossies. And remarkably now, not only are they safe in Division 1, they're actually an outside shot now to get to a league final. Now, I know things have to go their way, but in terms of first campaigns, for Mark Dowd, it's been a brilliant Division 1 campaign. For the Rossies, it's been fantastic. Matthew, I'll go to you.
Yeah, it's been a sensational league campaign for Roscommon. And I've said over the last few weeks, when is this Roscommon team going to buckle in terms of a good league start and then it starts to dip? I'm sort of thinking this is a different mindset with this Roscommon team. It feels kind of different. Like, Enda Smith is performing well. Diarmaid Murtagh, obviously, Darragh Craig didn't score any today, actually, and was actually taken off at 52 minutes. And to be fair, like, he's been one of their shining knights in the league so far. So it does show that other players could step up other than them three players. Like Keith Doyle today got 3 points. Colin Meary got 2 as well. Sinan Lamb got 2. And obviously Conor Hand off the bench with a goal and a point towards the end. Like, Roscommon do have some good numbers. And you look at the Bridges players as well coming back into the team. Even Conor Carroll started in today's game as well. Like, you look at Roscommon's panel and it is very, very strong at this present moment in time. Obviously, the game against Mayo next week, if they win that game and results go their way, they're in a league final. Like, who's not to say that Armagh will provide another big result and beat Kerry next week? So, like, Roscommon could realistically get to a league final. They absolutely deserve it. It's a brilliant result for them. And obviously, Dr. Hyde Park is a difficult place to go. And they reinforced that point today against a strong Donegal side. So, fair play to them for getting over the line. As for Donegal, I heard some bits out of this game. Like, I was doing my own work during this game, and obviously I was watching Waterford Tipperary in the hurling. But from what I've heard, Donegal kind of sleptwalk in this one, and even in the first half, Roscommon powered into a lead, and it was just unusual from Donegal's point of view. I just wonder, from Jim McGuinness's viewpoint as well, you know, the way he said after the Galway game that, well, he was emphasising in a way that Donegal didn't care about the league. I'm kind of thinking
on that, is he?
He didn't necessarily say it. No, I watched the interview and off the ball afterwards. It was Smaller Fish with Keaton Sexton. Apologies, but Jim was actually positive about the performances of the players in the second half. But I'm like, how could you? Like, Roscommon deserved their win, but they fell so far behind in that first half, Donegal, and it was hard enough to see them claw back a lead after that. They probably will be in a league final. Let's call a spade. We'll get on to Monaghan in a sec, but Monaghan are in rag order at this present moment in time. Donegal should beat them in the final day. But like it does question, do Donegal care about the league if they, if they fell flat in the first half in a way? But in another point, they might have been preparing for the Monaghan game in terms of their thinking they're going to win the game against Monaghan. We may as well lay lax in the first half, see what happens. But it just proves, like, in Division 1 or any league in particular, you can't take your foot off the accelerator at any time because any team is capable of beating anybody. So I think that's a lesson for Donegal. It's a lesson today that there is teams after them. They aren't the finished article right as of yet. So they need to brush this down, get going again. They'll probably beat Monaghan next week and get going for a league final after that. But it's a concerning kind of a performance from Donegal's point of view. They should recover from it, though, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. I think that they will power on into a league final. And I think this one, like they've lost on the road against a very, very good team, but I think McGuinness will be slightly bewildered by the performance. We've loads of comments in here. Peter saying Smith was class. Gavin, rightfully so. Are all you lads going to back Mayo next week? Aaron, how's the Mayo video getting on? It's more, I don't know if that's a shot more at the rivalry between Roscommon and Mayo, but there's no question about it, Gavin. Roscommon have absolutely proved us wrong in terms of our predictions. And in terms of, like, it made sense though, and it made sense to think that Roscommon would be one of the candidates to go down at the start because players like Kieran Murtagh, key players like that, had retired. Niall Daly had retired. Mark Dowd coming in his first season. They lost the Division 2 final. They were going to be without the St. Bridget's lads at the beginning of the league. It's an incredible achievement that Mark Dowd has managed to get such a tune out of this Roscommon team and so quickly as well, because what I was thinking about is it's one thing to fly ahead when you have the wind behind you and everything like that, and you've got the 2-point kickers that Roscommon have. We all know how good Dermot Murtagh is at kicking them, for example. It's one thing to fly into the lead the way that they did. But in my opinion, I was more impressed with the grit that they showed to close the game out. And that was where Enda Smith just was colossal for Roscommon. The way he took on the leadership, making key turnovers, getting that fisted point towards the end, and then his role in the goal that Conor finished off. Because I have to say, watching it, I thought it's only a matter of time here before Donegal get a 2-pointer and go in front. The way that the momentum seemed to go, the way that Roscommon held the line, showed absolute grit and determination and arrested that tide of momentum and got the win. I'm more impressed with that because, as we were saying, that shows serious bottle in this team. I'm very impressed with that, Aaron.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I think it should be more about Roscommon than Donegal, in my opinion. And I think, yeah, like I was saying earlier, I do think the Rossies have a bit more bite about them this time around. They have a bit more steel about their team in comparison to previous seasons. Look, I know there is a bit of PTSD there with Roscommon fans from the first season under Davy Burke, where it was sort of similar. I don't think they were as good in the league in that particular season as they have been now, because I do remember they tailed off towards the end of that league campaign. But obviously they did ramp it up in the championship, beating Mayo. So, I think Roscommon have been very, very good. The former Dermot Murtagh and the Smith, but it has been other players as well, like Dara Craig, who've stepped up, Senna Lamb, who's been outstanding, Keith Doyle in around midfield. I think goalkeeper-wise, they've been fairly spot on as well. And yeah, like even looking at it on Scorpio as well, like Ben O'Carroll was an unused substitute as well. Like that's, do you know what I mean? Like to not even need to bring him on towards the end of the game is some going. But yeah, I think the thing that was most impressive, like there was a huge wind that they had in the first half that they kind of built up a good advantage, and there were 13 points up. The winds, picked up even more so at the start of the second half, and Donegal were able to actually kind of pull the lead back. And they pulled it back quite quickly. Like it went from 13 to 5 in the space of 10 minutes at the start of the second half. But I think it was actually that period after that I'd be most impressed with if I was a Roscommon fan. Like the way they were able to kind of see through that kind of period, control the game, slow it down, the game management, and then obviously working at the goal at the end as well from Conor Hand, I think it was. So huge amount of positives I think from a Roscommon perspective. I think for Donegal, like I don't really think it is a case of them. Like they had their best players on the pitch. Like other than Oisin Gallen, like Michael Murphy was there, Jason McGee was there, Finbar Rorty, Michael Langan, Conor O'Donnell. Like they had their best players on the pitch. There definitely was maybe a bit of a drop off in their like intensity. And maybe they thought they didn't have to be at 100% to win this game, but I don't know. Like I think if Donegal were to lose to Monaghan, if I was a Donegal fan, I'd be going mad because you shouldn't be turning up your nose to national silverware, and like it's a perfect opportunity to get to a league final and possibly even win it. Like there's no guarantees that they win the All Ireland final. So for me, like they haven't won a league since what, like 2001, 2002 or something like that. They should definitely have their eyes on it.
Yeah, no, they definitely, and it's one thing as well that Jimmy hasn't won. He hasn't won a Division 1 title with Donegal, so why not go for it? We've loads of comments flying in about, I'm going to try pick out the best ones here. Gavin, of course, diehard Roscommon fan, says, I backed this 8th as well, unfortunately. Only thing I will say, Pearsons could have done what Bridget's did. Maybe the rest of Roscommon didn't get enough credit. Mark Dowd did great stuff with the club scene, and he certainly seems to have a rapport with the squad, the way he's just come in and hit the ground running. Mikey saying, I thought the lead at halftime wouldn't be enough. Rossies left a couple of goals behind them, but to their credit, they held their nerve when the game was in the melting pot. BMW says, typical Roscommon, brilliant today and very flat against the Dubs. There's certain things, like our record against Armagh as well, as was highlighted on the last show, is pretty terrible as well. We haven't beaten them since 2012, I think, in all competitions now. So, yeah, just certain teams are the bogey teams. Kieran says, can't see Donegal losing to Monaghan. And Ryan also says, thought we were gone when Donegal got back to within 4. There was a period in the second half where they hit back-to-back 2-pointers, Shane Malone and Jason McGee. And I was thinking, nah, Donegal are going to rein them in here. Like, the wind was just ridiculous. And there was one stage where Conor Carroll took a kick out and it went backwards after a certain point because the wind was so strong. And I thought, it's just going to be too much. But that's what I'm saying, that I was impressed with their grit. And I've been unbelievably impressed with Roscommon in this league campaign. We've seen them look good in Division 1 before and then win Connacht and not really threaten for the All-Ireland over the past 10 years. But this year, the grit that they're showing, it does make me think that they're to be taken more serious than in previous years. And I would definitely put them as strong candidates to win the Connacht Championship and then dark horses to go deep into the All-Ireland series. Gavin saying exactly, last year was understandable because they played Derry in the opening, but Donegal have a break. They should give the league their all. And Peter also said, think Donegal's keeper had a woolly hat on at one stage. He certainly did have a woolly hat on. The weather was absolutely terrible. But fair play to the Rossies. They are safe in Division 1 and an outside shot to get to a league final. And speaking of getting to a league final, this next game served basically as a league semi-final. It was billed as the David Clifford versus Kobe McDonald show by the RT podcast before the game, but it didn't really need to be sold. Like Kerry Mayo sells itself, but in this game, Aaron, Kerry ran away with it. Kerry 229, Mayo 19 points in Austin Stack Park. Matthew, you put it in the review, piece about the game that Kerry did they just teach Mayo a bit of a lesson here? Was this just a bit of an exhibition from Kerry?
I suppose it was in many ways. Obviously, I was at the Cork Kildare game, so I obviously didn't see much of it, and obviously the Ireland Scotland game coincided with it as well. So good memories there. But by looking at this game, Kerry, their big players really stepped up. Sean O'Shea got 11 points, David Clifford got 8 as well. Dylan Gainey coming back from his club exploits got 2-3 as well in this game. So a fantastic performance from them in particular. Even the likes of, as Aaron has said over the last few weeks, the likes of Keith Evans and the likes of Joe O'Connor and Killian Trant and all them who have started over the last few weeks for Kerry. Well, Joe O'Connor was a star last year, but in particular, Keith Evans, Killian Trant, Sean O'Brien. Now, these players would have been probably on the fringes for Kerry, in Killian Trant's case, with the Kerry Hurlers. But they have performed very well in this league campaign, and they've announced themselves as some excellent players in this Kerry team. Even Thomas Sullivan came back into the starting lineup, a good point on the board as well. So Kerry, brilliant display by them. And the scary thing is, you look at Kerry's bench as well. Like Mark O'Shea didn't even come on the pitch. Donald O'Sullivan didn't even come on. Charlie Keating, who was scouted by AFL, didn't even come on the pitch either. So look, I think Kerry are in a very, very strong place. And obviously Jack O'Connor does want a league final, as it turns out. So a very good display from a Kerry point of view. As for Mayo, I think it was maybe a bit of a lesson, yeah. Like a 16-point defeat is not a pretty defeat in many ways. And the two games where Mayo didn't perform very well was ironically against the two All-Ireland finals of Kerry and Donegal. It probably just shows Mayo have made some great strides But to get up to the top level, they need a lot more to their game. Obviously, Mayo have performed very well in the league campaign so far. That can't go unnoticed. Even Jordan Flynn got 2 points. Ryan O'Donoghue got 8. Jack Carney, their whole half-forward line scored. So that's kind of a positive for Mayo moving forward. But at the same time, to get up to the top level with these teams, you need a bit of something extra, not just Kobe in the team and expecting him to do things. Like, from what I was hearing, Jason Foley actually put a shackle on Kobe in this game and kept him quiet throughout. So like, if that plan fails, you need a plan B, and you need someone to really step up on the mantle for Mayo. And unfortunately for them, it just wasn't to be the case for them. David Clifford performed well for Kerry, but even when David Clifford doesn't perform well, you still have Keith Evans, you still have Sean O'Shea, you still have Joe O'Connor, even Tony Brosnan, who didn't play in this game, Dylan Gainey. You have these players that can really step up, and that's probably the difference between the elite teams and the improving teams in a way.
Yeah, we've loads of comments flying in about the whole thing. Grand Admiral Dane puts it very, very well. I'll just get up to this comment here. He says, didn't like the media talking about this whole Kobe versus Clifford nonsense. Kobe is 18 and still in school. Clifford is 27 and the best at the sport ever. It did remind me of, like, if a UFC prospect comes into the UFC or something and gets a nice knockout in the first fight and then fight the champion next. Like, it's a bit like, it was kind of like that. Yeah, Daniel Daly here saying the hype train in Mayo was in full flow, seeing 2 banners about Kobe, one of them saying he will deliver us, Sam. They of all counties shouldn't be hyping up. I do think, like, it's one of those things where I know it sounds absolutely silly, but it's like, maybe losing this game isn't the worst thing in the long run. They're safe in Division 1. They're not getting relegated. If they'd gone down and let's say they smoked Kerry, let's say it was the other way around and Kobe put on an exhibition and scored 7 points, the Mayo for Sam stuff would be off to the races and the hype behind the team would be off the scale. And hype is not a good thing in terms of pressure that it builds on your team. It's great for fan engagement. It's great for getting the fans on the bandwagon and going to the games. But in terms of the pressure that puts on the players, it is something that can be a bit of a negative. Like, it's no wonder that when Pat Gilroy came in as Dublin boss in 2009, one of his first things that he tried to do was kill the hype machine. Stop getting people carried away with Dublin win a Leinster Championship and, we're going to hammer Kerry in the All-Ireland quarterfinal and then we'd get hammered. It was like, try and take things a little bit slower. And it maybe isn't the worst thing that they've lost this game. Very weird point to make, but I think that is kind of where my head's at with it. As Ryan says, reality check. They still have a long way to go, but I wouldn't write them off. I think they have the talent, maybe not to win it this year, but I think in a few years, I wouldn't be surprised if Mayo get their hands on one, especially if Oisin Mullen comes back from the AFL as well. Ryan says Kerry should start Tomas Kennedy in the championship. Gaelic guy also saying Mayo need to shelter Kobe from the media and nurture him into the side over time throughout the year. There's already too much hype around him. Aaron, what's your take on this game? Obviously, looking at it as well, actually, can I just get your thoughts first of all? Sean O'Shea's 2-pointer, I like, unbelievable skill. I mean, to draw it in the way that he did and just to have the audacity to even go for that is outrageous.
Yeah, like it was almost like he was just taking the piss at that stage. Like Kerry were just taking the mick. They had such a big lead over Mayo, and I think Sean O'Shea just seeing the ball rolling on the ground. Like I think if you're 2 or 3 points up in that game, to be fair, actually I don't know. Maybe Sean O'Shea would have did it anyway because he is that type of player. To be honest, that he has the ability to do that. I feel like with certain players, there is certain players who just wouldn't do that whatsoever. But yeah, it was absolutely outrageous. Like to kick it off the ground and the way that he did, so casually as well. Like a brilliant 2-pointer, and it's definitely another one for what will already be an unbelievable highlight reel from a Sean O'Shea perspective. But yeah, I agree with what you lads were saying. It was very, very dominant for Kerry. A little bit surprising how comfortable it was in the end. It was interesting because Mayo actually started the better team. Like in the opening 20 minutes, I think there were 9 points to 3 up at one stage, and they were actually playing quite well. And I thought Kobe McDonald, although fair enough, he did, Jason Foley did do a good job on him. You could still see in flashes and moments how good of a player that he can be. Like there was one moment he sold a dummy to one of the Kerry defenders, and then Armand Heinrich came in last minute and blocked the opportunity. there was that one chance when he went for goal as well. Maybe should have went for the point in hindsight, but you have to admire the confidence going for goal. And you know, when he gets that opportunity. And look, it was a young Mayo team out there, to be fair, with Kobe, with Dara Byrne. Like they are missing a lot of big players still. In terms of Matthew Rowan and the Hessian, Paddy Durkin, they were missing a lot of experienced lads within their team. Aidan O'Shea didn't start. Killian O'Connor on the bench. So I do get your point, Séamus. Like I think it can be used as a good thing potentially. I think as we've seen in previous years, Mayo have won the league. There's been so much hype around them, and then they've had flat championships. So maybe a different approach of now I'm not saying they're going to go out and lose to Roscommon next week. Absolutely not. They'll want to win that game and get to the league final, but it will just stem the hype a little bit, even if they do win the league from now. Do you know what I mean? Like I think if they had gone away to Kerry and beaten the All-Ireland champions, like it just the hype would have absolutely ramped up. So I think it could benefit them, but obviously we'll just have to wait and see how they react to this loss now.
Yeah, and I'm not having as well if people think that this was some sort of tactical masterstroke by Andy Moran to go away and lose to Kerry. I'm not having that at all. But I am saying that maybe it might be like cruel to be kind type thing, that maybe it might work for them in the long run. Ryan here saying Mayo only scored 10 points with the win while Kerry scored 216. I mean, that stat is telling in terms of how the game went as well. But yeah, very, very impressive win for Kerry. And now we're going to move on to the final game in Division 1. And Matthew, we have our first team confirmed relegated from Division 1. Monaghan losing to Galway in this one in Inniskeen. Galway 120, Monaghan 2-9. Oisin McDonagh with the goal for Galway, while Rob Finnerty with 8 points and John Maher and Matthew Tierney got 3 points each. But it was more of the same for Monaghan. Like I watched about 2/3 of the game, and then I had to go out to take care of a few errands, and I swear like the first half especially was a tough watch.
Yeah, to be fair, I made the decision to watch Tipperary and Waterford in the hurling specifically because the primetime game was this game. Again, look, that's something the GA need to fix in terms of like, why are you putting this as the primetime game? Everyone knew what was going to happen. Galway were going to win the game and Monaghan were going to get relegated. But look, that's another discussion for another day. That could be in its own podcast. For this game, look, there's nothing really to say about it other than Galway. Look, a decent enough display by them. Rob Finnerty getting 8 points. The midfield particularly did well in Matthew Tierney and John Maher. Paul Conroy coming on again, 2-2-pointers was very impressive as well. Obviously, Oisin McDonagh with the goal. But the most damning start, like up until Monaghan scored a late 1-1 in around stoppage time, Galway were 120 to 1-8 up. The game was completely over. It was over from a long way out. Even the game, I think, was 1-5 to 4 points at half time. It was, as you said, Séamus, a tough watch in the first half. Galway will be confident enough going to the Dublin game next week, but I agree with Aaron and I agree with you completely. They are beatable. They didn't get tested today at all. Monaghan are a team on a one-way ticket and they're going down to Division 2. A lot of people say, okay, there's injuries with Monaghan, but again, you'd expect a bigger fight than this. Like, it was just obvious what was going to happen before throwing. Monaghan were going to lose this game, and yeah, it's just been very poor from Monaghan. And even like their forward line chipped in. Only 3 of their forwards scored. Jack McCarron, Stephen O'Hanlon and Michal Bannigan. 3 of their forwards didn't score, and it was only 7 points out of those 3 forwards that scored. That's damaging. And look, I think Monaghan are in for a tough year. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Look, it's not a good Monaghan team this year. They're on the one-way ticket. They'll probably get hammered by Donegal next week. That's another game for another discussion. But for Galway, look, good win, but there's bigger games to come, especially next week against Dublin.
Aaron, what was your take on this when it was a difficult day out for the Fanny?
Yeah, like I agree with what you were saying there. Like it was a very hard watch. You were kind of wondering, like, it just felt like got like I think it was Mikey who commented on one of our, I think maybe the last show. He was saying that Galway always play to the level of their opponent, and it actually was very true. In essence of this game, like Galway just didn't really feel at it, to be honest. And like Monaghan were really poor as well. Like overall, it was just a poor game. Like I think it was 1-8 to 1-6 after like 40 minutes. And then there was a spell in the third quarter where I think where Galway outscored Monaghan 14 points to 4 or something like that. And they kicked a number of 2-pointers from Paul Conroy and Robert Finnerty. Obviously got the goal as well. The goal was actually in the first half. But yeah, they dominated that kind of period and kind of kicked on from there. But yeah, I think it's definitely there from a Dublin perspective to beat Galway. Definitely give us a fair chance. But I also do think there is another gear, there is another level to go up on with Galway. I don't know if we'll see that until the championship, to be honest with you. Which is why I give us a fair chance. But yeah, I think it's been a strange season for Galway. They have 6 points on the board, but they have had a lot of very poor performances, even in some of their wins.
Yeah, I remember the Armagh game especially. Like everyone was like, Galway didn't play well, but they won and everything. Like they won away in Armagh. But anyway, before we move on, we're just going to give you a recap of how the division is looking heading into the final week, and a massive shout out to GAA League tables. If you haven't seen them yet, go follow them on Twitter and across the socials. They do absolutely great stuff, but they put this up at the end. And as you can see there, that's how the table looks heading into the final week. And of course, there you can see the fixtures heading into round 7 as well. So savage stuff there. And the social handle there is up at the top at GAA League tables. But Donegal and Kerry, you can see there, top on 9 points. Mayo and Roscommon on 8 points each. Galway on 6. Armagh and Dublin on 4. And Monaghan confirmed relegated at the bottom. Simply put, Dublin need to beat Galway to stay up. Armagh would save themselves then. But if Armagh win against Kerry, then it enters into a score difference between Galway, Armagh and Dublin for who gets relegated. Kerry, Donegal, Mayo and Roscommon all aren't confirmed in that league final, but they can all qualify for it next week. Of course, we'll be doing the live watch along if you haven't heard yet, so do be with us for that because it's going to be savage stuff. But anyway, we're going to move on from Division 1 now. We're going to move down to Division 2, and Matthew, Cork now, they're a consistent team. Great win over Kildare, 131-219 in Páirc Uí Chaoimh. It was one of the things that we were saying over the last few years had been Cork's Achilles heel, the inconsistency. But a fantastic win here over Kildare. Really, really impressive stuff. And again, Chris O'Jones shooting the lights out.
Fantastic win for Cork, and it was in Páirc Uí Chaoimh, Séamus, instead of Páirc Uí Chaoimh, with the smaller pitch and all, with the tighter atmosphere. But look, yeah, it was sort of a game. I know we scored 131 and we won the game comfortably enough in the end, but I might kill joy to say I'm very disappointed because we could have won the game by 20 plus. I'm being completely honest here. We were well over Kildare in the first half. We were leading 122-16 at half time. We were 117-13 up in 27 minutes after Chris O got the goal. We were absolutely all over them, and we should have won the game by more. We got a black card at the end through Patrick Doyle, our goalkeeper, and then Kildare started to close the gap, and they got a few goal chances to try and make it even more of a respectable scoreline from their point of view. But this has probably been a problem for Cork. Obviously, it's hard starting on the negative because we are top of Division 2. But this has been a problem. We haven't put the foot on the throat of our opponents. We should have beat Louth by more. We should have beat Offaly by more. We should have beat Kildare by more. And we lost by 20 points to Derry. And that could be something that costs us promotion in terms of the scoring difference. So that's a bit of a negative. But in terms of the positive, I think our attackers are flying. Absolutely. Chris Og, 1-9 for play. Sensation. I think he's the top scorer for play in Division 2 at this present moment in time with 317. So very impressive from him. Stephen Sherlock, Mark Cronin, Dara Sheedy, exceptional performances from them. Luke Fahy as well. We kicked 8 2-pointers in the first half, which was, I don't know, was a record, to be fair, in one half of football. So fair play to them, the lads for doing that. It was a very good display from Cork in the first half in particular. Not so good in the second half, but we move on to Tyrone next week, and the permutations are pretty simple. Win or draw, and we're up. Obviously, it's Oma. It's a difficult game. Tyrone have a bit of performing well this season. I'd be interested to see the comments what Tyrone were like against Meath, from what some people were saying Tyrone were terrible, from what some people were saying as well, it was nip and tuck. So like, I'd be interested to see what Tyrone team actually turned up last night in Croke Park. But look, it's simple from our point of view. We have to win the game. We have to draw the game, and we're up. And John Cleary actually said it in post-match as well. There's no point in looking at, I know Louth beat Derry as well, but the players were kind of zoned out of that. They didn't know about the result until obviously there was a speaker over the tannoy in Páirc Uí Rinn saying the results Louth beat Derry. But up until that point, the players didn't know the results at all. And I think that was a good thing from John Cleaver. Just focus on your job in hand, get the job done against Kildare, and we work from there. To be fair, I think that's what Cork are going to do next week against Tyrone as well. Concentrate what they want to do, control the controllables, and hopefully that will lead to promotion. But look, good first half, second half needs a bit of work. But yeah, all these roads lead to Omagh next week, and hopefully, fingers crossed, we do get that promotion back up to Division 1.
Absolutely. So, well, you're very close. There's no question about it. You're very close to getting over the line. Aaron, I'm going to move on to you next because Cork handled their business and we were keeping an eye then on the Meath-Tyrone game. Tyrone didn't do Cork a favour in this one, and Matthew mentioned about how people are seeing this game differently. I did watch this game. Tyrone started well. Like they came out the blocks and you're thinking, all right, have they turned up now for this division finally? And Meath just reined them in bit by bit, and Jack O'Connor as well. I mean, echoes back to the unbelievable points that he was kicking in the Tailteann Cup, but he was absolutely phenomenal. Aaron Lynch as well, getting 2 goals and a point. But you were there, you were mentioning for the final few moments closing out the game. What did you make of Meath up close?
Yeah, well, look, from what I have seen of Meath overall this year, like they've been very good at handling being behind in games. You know, they actually started the game versus Tyrone very similarly to how they started the Derry game, from what I heard. They conceded an early goal. They fell behind in the game. They had to battle back. It's been a common trend really for me throughout the league. They had to score a late 2-pointer versus Louth, a late 2-pointer versus Cavan to kind of come through those games. And whilst they did score a late 2-pointer in this game from Sean Brennan, the game was done at that stage. The hooter had sounded, and the free was just to kind of add on the bonus points, or the kind of add on the score difference or whatever. But yeah, it was like from a Tyrone perspective, I think there is a lot of question marks over them in terms of what actually is going wrong. It is baffling because like when you look at their team, like even when you're looking at it, like just have it in front of me on Scorpio, like looking at the players they brought off the bench. They brought Dara Canavan off the bench, Darren McCurry off the bench, Owen McElhone, Frank Burns, and Michael McKernan. How are they in this position? And like that's
how are they not starting?
Yeah, but then to mention, like they had Ethan Jordan who scored 1-9. You've Matthew Donnelly in the team, Rory Canavan, Shawnee O'Donnell, who's looked very good. Some very, very top class. Fair enough, they didn't have Noel Morgan in goal, but they had a phenomenal team out there, and I just don't know what is happening, to be honest with you. And I've seen like a few posts and everything else. I've seen Unofficial Tyrone up on Twitter, who does a lot of great work for Tyrone football and everything, even saying that a lot of the Tyrone fans aren't going to games as well. And it actually was very visible in Crow Park. I didn't see one Tyrone fan there, to be honest. I know it was in the hill, but you could see the Armagh colours, you could see the Meath colours. I didn't see any Tyrone colours. Do you know what I mean? I feel like a lot of Tyrone fans aren't really buying into the team, and it is a little bit unusual because I think a lot of us would have thought at the start of the year that they would be close contenders with Kerry, Donegal and the rest, but you'd have to say at this moment they look miles off it. I
think there's a case for them being the biggest disappointment in the league, because I know Monaghan have been really flat in Division 1, but at least with Monaghan there's a little bit of an excuse to, like, okay, they're trying to blood in these new players and everything like that. Tyrone are ready to go. There's no excuse. Like the players that they have had, I know that this new generation is coming through, but they've been coming through for the last 2 years. We all thought that Tyrone would top the division. That was the consensus across every single GA podcast that I listened to previewing the league. Everyone was saying Tyrone are getting out of Division 2 without a bother. They got 7 points in Division 1 last year. If they get less points in Division 2 than they got in Division 1 getting relegated, it would be a bit mental. Semi-finalists last year as well, as Ryan says here. I don't really know what's gone on and what's gone wrong, but Meath look very impressive, and they're confirmed now that they're going up. They're promoted. So, yeah, they are. I mean, well, that's what I read. I read that they're confirmed as promoted.
No, they're not yet, but very likely.
And then someone has it wrong.
I mean, they are playing awfully. Sorry, Liam.
On cusp of promotion. Sorry, you're right. They have to get at least a draw. If they get at least a draw against Offaly, they're up. So that's what I read. But yeah, we're going to move on to the next game. So Tyrone didn't do you a favour, Matthew, but Louth did. And I was chatting to you off air. Even though Louth got the win against Derry in RD, is it safe to say that there's still conflicting feelings about this result?
To be fair, I think it is conflicting feelings because I had the idealistic scenario in my mind going into the weekend that Derry would win, that Tyrone would beat Meath, and all Cork would need to happen, provided they beat Kildare, was for Derry to beat Cavan in the last game and we're up. But obviously that isn't Cork don't do things simple, obviously. It's flipped over, but in a way, it's put us back in our own hands again. It's not in Derry's hands, it's in our hands again. So that's a positive. We have to go to Tyrone and beat and draw with them. That's the positive from this point of view. But obviously, I didn't see the Louth and Derry game because obviously I was in Páirc Uí Rinn at the time. But I did see Grace Cullen's video on TikTok, and apparently they were missing Conor Grimes, Kieran Downey, Craig Lennon as well, and they beat Derry at home. That's, like, to be fair to Louth, you have to give them massive plaudits for that. That's a sensational result. I know it's RD and it is a difficult place to go. I know it all too well. Cork went there twice and lost. It is a difficult place to go. And Louth make it very, very difficult. But even saying that, if you said that it beat Tyrone and Derry at home, the two sides that went down for Division 1 at home, that's sensational. Like, it's crazy in many ways that Louth did this. Like Samuel Roy getting 1-6 in this one. Darragh MacDonald did well in this one as well. So Tyke MacDonald off the bench. Like, it was an exceptional performance from Louth, to be fair to them. And even more probably pleasing from a Louth point of view. I was talking up the top scorers there, and I had to double check this. Shane McGuigan was scoreless in this game. And I was like, I couldn't believe it, really. Like, that, whoever was on him in this game deserves a lot of credit. Like, that's a really, really good stat to have from a Louth point of view. Obviously, from a Derry standpoint, it is a very difficult place to go, RD, but they would have felt, I think, downgraded after the performance they gave against Cork. A lot of people would say, okay, they're on one-way tickets, they're going up now. But this has put it right back in the melting pot now. They're basically relying on their Ulster rivals Tyrone to do them a favour in Armagh next week. So, again, we have another situation where a certain group of fans won't be expected to shout for their rivals in many ways, but that is the case next week. And obviously they have to do their own dues and beat Cavan too. So it's a difficult time for Derry this present moment of time when it looked to be comfortable for them. But yeah, it's a big promotion race, and it's going to be difficult to see who actually goes up next week.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be fascinating stuff. And again, tune into the live watch along because, I mean, the permutations and everything like that, it's going to be pretty wild. LGFA fan 57 here says, hey lads, I said going back a few weeks ago that Louth would improve as the league went on and that they'd have a say in this league. Louth are one of the best coach teams and have a massive panel. He also mentions here, no Lennon, Downey, Burns, Grimes, and 2 starters off the bench as well. I mean, it's absolutely sensational stuff. And on top of that, as Peter's saying here, Horst Devlin doing the business. I mean, the reality is Louth have put in a system now. It's quite clear that whether it's Mickey Hart at the wheel, Ger Brennan at the wheel, or now Horst Devlin, that the system just carries on. They have their style of play. I know that obviously each manager has tweaked it a little bit, but they, as Gaelic Guy here says, they continue to improve despite the doubters every year. Dublin is great saying, what time is the watch along on Sunday? We haven't nailed on an exact time yet, but of course the games for Division 2 are starting is 1:15, Matthew, and then the Division 1 games are starting at 3. So we're thinking about what time would be good to start it. Like, immediately in my head, I'm thinking maybe one few minutes before the Division 2 game start or something like that. But we will keep you all updated across our socials. We will be posting the updates about what time we're starting and everything like that that is relevant to the live stream. So please keep an eye out for that. And yeah, I can't wait for it. We're going to move on now to the final game in Division 2 Round 6. And this was, again, awfully confirmed as relegated, while Cavan get a massive win and in the process lift themselves out of the drop zone at the expense of Kildare. They beat Offaly in O'Connor Park 220 to 3 goals and 15 points. And in this game, Aaron, the key players for Cavan, Ryan Donoghue at 1-5, Oisín Brady with 1-3. It's a huge, huge win for Dermot McCabe's side.
Absolutely, yeah. They scored a late 2-pointer at the end of the game. I did see a few people online say it was a bit of a it shouldn't have been a 2-pointer or something. Actually, I've seen a few people on Twitter saying it should have been wide. Apparently, the 2-pointer. Did also see John McMahon, shout out to him, very much correcting them in the comments though and saying it was a point. Make of that what you will in terms of who's right and who's wrong there. But yeah, look, a huge win in the end from a Cavan perspective to get over the line. If they had lost this game, as we were saying, there would have been huge negativity around Cavan football. So for the first time in a while, Dermot McCabe is on the right end of a late win. And as you said, yeah, big Ryan Donoghue scoring 1-5. So haven't heard too much about him from a Cavan perspective. So that's obviously a positive, maybe, that they're introducing a few new players and everything else to go with it. Cúilín Brady with 1-3 as well. So yeah, massive result, I think, from a Cavan perspective. And it leaves them in a big position going into the final day.
Well, let's take a look again. Massive shout to GA League tables. This is how the Division 2 table is looking heading into the final week. Cork are top and Meath are top as well. Joint top. Meath are playing Offaly away next week, who are already confirmed as relegated. Meath just need to get a point in that game. A draw will be enough to send them up to Division 1. Louth and Derry on their tails with 8 points each. Tyrone out of the promotion race, which is absolutely bizarre. They're on 5 points. Cavan on 4 and Kildare on 3, and Offaly confirmed relegated at the bottom of the table. Cavan or Kildare to join Offaly in the relegation places. I don't think, lads, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think Tyrone can go down, or I think it would be a miracle if Tyrone did go down. But
I think apparently Tyrone need to win. I think Tyrone need to win by 14 points and Kildare need to win by 15 points apparently for it to happen. So yeah, it's probably not going to happen.
Probably not going to happen. Bit baffling. We're going to have to get the calculators out, Aaron, in the final few minutes of Division 2 and Division 1. But yeah, that is how the table is shaping up in Division 2, and we're going to move on now to Division 3, and we're going to look at the clock as well, because we're already past into an hour and we still have a good bit to cover. But this was a massive week as well in Division 3, and Aaron, when you look at this result, for example, this one is the main one that jumps out. Wexford 123, Clare 217, and Port Keysog a massive win for Wexford, while Down beat Sligo 224 to 21 points in Markovich Park. Westmeath got the job done fairly handy against Limerick in Cusack Park 421 to 38, while Fermanagh got their first win of the season, beating Laois 213 to 114 in Brewster Park. What did you make of these 4 games?
Yeah, just correcting myself actually there as well. Derry, I think, need to win by 14 points, not Tyrone. Obviously, that has no. Yeah, that's a promotion race. So we're kind of coming up towards delusional time maybe there. But yeah, in terms of these games, I think the Wexford Clare one stood out. I watched a bit of this on the TG Cahar app, and look, there was definitely like a lot of these games, conditions and everything else kind of played its part, and Wexford certainly did have a favourable wind in the first half. They built up a huge lead, actually, as a matter of fact. I think they were 118 to like 6 points up at one stage. It was quite bizarre how good Wexford actually were. And I have to say, like, we might have said Tyrone have been the biggest disappointment of the league, but I think Wexford, to be honest with you, have to be one of the most improved teams in Gaelic football. Like, when you think about it, they were stuck in Division 4 for quite a long time. And now, like, they're not, like, I'm not too sure how it's going to work with the whole Tailteann Cup and everything, especially if Kildare get relegated, but like there could be a chance Wexford are playing Sam Maguire. Like they're playing in the Sam Maguire later in the summer, and that will be some story from Wexford football if they do get promoted. Likes of Porrick Hughes, absolutely brilliant. Owen Nolan as well with 3 points. So yeah, massive result there from a Wexford perspective. In terms of some of the other games, then yeah, he expected Down to get the job done versus Sligo, and they did comfortably enough from what I heard. So big result there. I think myself and Matthew both predicted Fermanagh to beat Laois. Look, they have to stand up and win the game. They have to show something. I think they are still relegated from what I've heard. But look, at least they've given themselves something, and there's a bit of fight maybe going into the Ulster Championship and the Tailteann Cup. And then the last game was Westmeath Limerick. Yeah, that was a big, like 421 for Westmeath to score there. I mean, it nearly looks like a hurling scoreline there. Like if it was Limerick and Westmeath flipped around and hurling, you wouldn't you wouldn't bet any eyelids really. So yeah, some win for Westmeath, to be fair. Score difference could be a big part, so that's absolutely huge. And I think actually as well, they're playing Wexford next weekend, so that's a big game.
That's a huge game. We'll take a look as well at how the table is looking in Division 3. Of course, again, big shout out to GLE tables. Down confirmed as promoted. Fermanagh rooted to the bottom with 2 points. Limerick on 3, Sligo on 4, Laois on 5, Clare on 6, and then Wexford and Westmeath battling it out for that second promotion spot up to Division 2 for next season. And interestingly enough, they play against each other next week in the final round of Division 3. So that's going to be some battle. I mean, yeah, you can't really make it more like literally a promotion final between two neighbouring counties. Matthew, can I get your thoughts briefly on Division 3 before we move to Division 4?
Yeah, like Down beating Sligo, that ends my prediction, promotion prediction in terms of Sligo going up. Look, Sligo, I'm not going to predict them to go up again. I'll put it that way. But yeah, a good result for Down there. Fantastic result for Westmeath, putting Limerick away, and it does mean as well if Westmeath draw to Wexford next week, they will get promoted. So Wexford have to win. But having said that, it's a fantastic achievement for Wexford to even be in this position. A lot of people predicted them to go down, obviously because of their loss of the Division 4 final last year, and they've struggled in the Tailteann Cup over the last few years. But I'm absolutely delighted Wexford football's on the way back. My memories, 2008 All-Ireland semi-finalists, tested Dublin all the way in that 2011 Leinster final. Players like Ben Brosnan and BJ Banville and all them players. And they have new heroes this year. Matty Ford, exactly, but new heroes this year: Sean Nolans, the Mark Rossiters, the Pádraig Hugheses. Like, they have some new established heroes, and it's fantastic. John Haggerty deserves a lot of credit for getting Wexford into this position. And for Fermanagh, they had to show fight and win against Laois, and they did. Obviously, they are relegated now, but hopefully, from their point of view, that'll be the confidence booster that Declan Bollard's team needs. And just before we leave Division 3, for Clare, enjoy the Tailteann Cup, lads.
Parting shot. I'm delighted for Wexford. Just again, I spent my summers, a good portion of my summers when I was growing up in Wexford, and one of my earliest golden memories of the GAA is Matty Ford kicking over that score against Meath in that legendary comeback in the Leinster Championship, and like that team with Kieran Ling and Redmond Barry and all those. That was one of my favourite teams when I was growing up. So I would love to see Wexford come back, and just that unique factor that they have with the purple and gold, they stick out. Like, we see a lot of green, we see a lot of blue, a lot of red in Croke Park. The purple and gold, when they get there, brings something different to the table. So yeah, I'd love to see Wexford keep going up the divisions. We're moving now to Division 4, and we straight off the bat had a crazy result. London beating Carlow by a goal and 20 to 18 points in Cullen Park. Antrim hammering Waterford 4-18 to 11 points in Frere Field. Leitrim getting an impressive win over Longford 3-19 to 115 in Páirc Sean McDermott, and Wicklow beating Tipperary 3-19 to 13 points in Aughrim. So all 4 wins, Matthew, fairly comprehensive and fairly impressive, with the exception of maybe the London one was by 5 points, but an incredible win, and that's the pick of the bunch.
This division is absolutely mental, having looked at it, because from first place to 7th place, from Carlow down to Leitrim, there was 2 points separating them, the top 7. That's nuts. Anything can happen in the final day in this division. And even when Carlow looked to be on a route to Division 3, they've been dragged back into it. Like London going over to Netwatch Cullen Park and beating Carlow, that's a really big result for London. To go over there and beat them. Shea Rafter, Kieran Diver, like brilliant performances from them to get them over the line. Wicklow, that was a big win for them over Tipperary. Obviously, it was in Aughrim, like it was a difficult place to go, obviously, for Tipperary, but Tipperary, comedically, they're still involved in the promotion fight because of the way the league is shaping up. Like Owen Darcy performed very well for Wicklow, Kevin Quinn as well, and so did Podge O'Toole from centre forward, so they look at a serious position as well. Antrim, difficult start, but 3 wins on the bounce now. They look very, very good. Ryan McQuillan was very good with a goal in this one. So did Peter Healy, Mark Jordan, and obviously some very good. And Adam Lochran got the other goal for Antrim, but it was an expected win over Waterford. And Leitrim, what a result to beat Longford the way they did. Obviously, Gary Reynolds getting 2 goals in that game. So, and obviously Barry McNulty getting 1-4. So a very good result for Leitrim. But I have to say, Séamus, I think he'll bring up the table in a sec. That division is absolutely nuts, and I don't know how it's going to go.
Literally, you've got, as one of the comments said, 7 out of the 8 teams can get promoted. Like, what the fuck is going on here? We've got 3 teams on 6 points: Leitrim, Tipperary, and Antrim. 2 on 7 in Longford and London, and Wicklow and Carlow on 8 points. I mean, Aaron, like, talk about getting the calculators out to have a look at this. I mean, absolutely baffling. Waterford at home, they're the only team that don't really have a horse in the race in terms of going up. But Tipperary, you'd imagine they'll win that. Carlow against Leitrim, that's a massive task for both of those sides. Carlow having home advantage, though, I think is huge. Antrim have home advantage against London, which could be a big boost to them. And Wicklow have to go away to Longford. I think Wicklow-Longford is the toughest one to call, in my opinion, out of all of the games. Who knows how this one's going to go? Like, genuinely, who knows how this one's going to roll the dice and see what comes up. The most bonkers Division 4. I think it's the most bonkers Division 4 we've ever seen. Like, genuinely, I don't think I've ever seen it. Usually in Division 4, you have 2 teams that kind of highlight themselves pretty early on as the strongest teams in the division. And Carlow looked like they were on their way to do that. But that win by London has just shook the whole thing up. Aaron, your thoughts on it before we move on to the hurling and camogie action?
Yeah, just absolutely mental. And I think it's why we love the National Football League, because you do get these scenarios. And I do remember, I think Division 2, was it like 4 years ago, where Cavan were nearly getting relegated and then ended up getting promoted.
Division 1 last year.
Division 1 last year as well.
In the final and then got relegated.
Yeah, because it is such a small sample for a league. Do you know what I mean? Like 7 games for each team. You know what I mean? It is. You know, it's kind of like a mini league or something, you know, like it is kind of mental. But yeah, like it is absolutely wide open. Like, it looks like Wicklow and Antrim are the 2 most informed teams coming into the final day. I would keep an eye on Antrim because they're racking up a big score difference. And I think they could have a big chance.
And maybe they might say, like, genuinely at this stage, you can't say with Division 4 that we got our predictions wrong or anything. Like, literally, we could get them spot on here, the way that this week is shaping up. I mean, Antrim, yeah, I think the score difference could come into play massively when you see how many teams could end up on the same points, etc., etc. But we're going to move on now. So that's the football action all recapped. We're moving to the one hurling game that took place in the National Leagues, and then on to the camogie as well. So starting off, we had the game between Waterford and Tipperary, which was obviously refixed from the previous week. Waterford 123, Tipperary 224 in Walsh Park. This truly was a game of 2 halves. Waterford exploded out of the traps in the first half, looked really, really good. And then Tipperary roared back in the second half, showing that they are the All-Ireland champions for a reason. Matthew, as a neighbouring county or a rival county to both of these, what did you make looking on?
Very weird encounter. I thought Waterford absolutely deserved to win it, I'll be honest with you. And I think, again, we talked about David Goff there in terms of refereeing decisions. Again, I thought there was some weird calls in this game. And when you look at the stat, actually, Waterford conceded 19 frees, Tipperary conceded only 10. And I feel like some of those fouls were very, very questionable. And there was a period in the game, obviously, Garrod O'Connor's goal in the second half really changed the complexion of the game. That put Tipperary in front for the first time in the game in the second half, and they ploughed on from there. But there was a moment in the game where I think it was Sean Walsh going through on goal, and Rhys Shelley doesn't get anywhere near the slitter, and he just rugby tackles him to the ground, and the ref doesn't give a penalty. And you're thinking, what on earth does Waterford have to do to get a bit of luck in this game? But look, it does send Waterford down to Division 1B. They would have benefited massively from this result in terms of confidence and in terms of surviving today. But they were exceptional in the first half and throughout the whole game in terms of their shooting accuracy as well, 72% for Waterford, and they still lose the game, which is nuts. Tipperary just weren't at it in the first half, other than John McGrath, who was very good. He was named at number 9, but I think he was playing around the forward division with Michael Breen replacing Darrell McCarthy in the team and moving back the field. But he was very, very good, John McGrath, and he definitely put it back to his last year's display in terms of his performances. A credit as well to Stephen Tobin. I think he's just out of school or still in school, 18 or 19 years of age. He scored a lot from play, I have to say, 4 points from play in this game today. Obviously, Jason Ford back in the team, Garrod O'Connor getting the goal, Jake Morris as well. So good performers all over the pitch from a Tipperary point of view, but I thought they were very, very lucky with a few decisions that were given for them in this one. As for Waterford, look, very good displays from Déise in the first half. Déise Hutchinson, he got 5 points for play. I thought Shane Bennett was absolutely brilliant from wing back, hitting 4 points. Sean Walsh hitting a brilliant goal in the first half as well. And I thought, like, Mark Fitzgerald held his own as well at full back. I thought Waterford were very, very good at some parts, some facets of the game, but they just couldn't hold it out. And it was just unfortunate that they couldn't do it in the end. They deserved more than what they got today, but to be fair to Tipperary, they came back into the game like All-Ireland champions and they won the game in the end, which means, I suppose, that Kilkenny game next week is a bit of a dead rubber for them before they go into the battle in the Munster Championship against Cork. But look, to put a long story short, I think Waterford deserved a lot more than what they got in the end.
It's safe to say they deserve more from the entire league campaign. We've a lot of comments coming in about this game. Porter, proud Tipperary fan. Correct me if I'm wrong, please. Somebody says gritty win, good work rate by Tipp. Robert Doyle got the better of Hutchinson in the second half. Same work rate for Kilkenny next week, please. Ryan Gallagher asks, will the wheels come off for Waterford now? Dublin's Great says, hard luck on Waterford. They played quite well except for a few mistakes that were well punished by Tipp. The reffing was quite strange though. Aaron, did you manage to catch any of this game? If so, what did you make of it?
I didn't see any of it actually, lad, so I will have to catch up on the highlights and everything else. But yeah, from what I have read and from what Matthew was saying there, yeah, it does feel like quite a damning defeat for Waterford, or quite an unlucky defeat, maybe in some ways. Like, I was keeping an eye and did feel like Waterford were going to get over the line and get the win. And obviously, with the way the table is shaping up with Waterford and Kilkenny both on 4 points, and I think Waterford have played all their games now, have they?
Yeah, Matthew was saying there.
Waterford are relegated.
Yeah.
Okay.
And do you think, just to pick up on the question that I asked earlier, do you think that they deserve more from the league campaign for how they've played, or do you think that performances like, for example, the Cork one maybe, that they've kind of made their own bed there?
I think they are unlucky, but it's kind of been that way for Waterford over the last couple of years. Do you know what I mean? Like it has been. They've been very close. Like even last year in the Munster Championship, I know they had that win versus Clare, but they've had a couple of games where they've come close. They've had a couple of games where they've put in a fight and everything else, and the battle, and you know, they're kind of like a spirited kind of victory, even though they've lost. And it has been similar as well, like against Kilkenny. They had moments in that game where, in my opinion, they should have won it. Same from what I've heard against Tipperary. So it is a setback, but look, maybe for some of the younger players and everything else going into Division 1B, maybe it might help them moving forward.
Absolutely. I think there's no harm in it. Like when you see Clare going down to Division 1B and then bouncing straight back up, you know, with a 100% record. I mean, well, so far anyway. I think it doesn't really do much harm. Like they haven't really looked like they've lost a step, and they go straight back up to Division 1A with their chests out and the confidence high. Well, while Waterford have been relegated on the men's side, they're absolutely flying in the Camogie. They're still undefeated. We move across from Hurling to Camogie now. Waterford keeping their 100% record intact. Waterford 210, Kilkenny 14 points in Walsh Park. The Déise's 100% record in the Camogie Division 1A continues. They can add Kilkenny to that list now. Beth Carton with 2 goals and a point. Niamh Rocket with 5 points. As once again, Matthew, they put another top team in Division 1A to the sword.
Yeah, it's a sensational run of form for Waterford. And to be fair to Mick Bolins, the manager who has come in, he actually replaced Jory Wallace mid-season last year. And they've been on a sensational run of form. And let's not forget, in the All-Ireland semi-final against Cork, I know the result wasn't particularly great looking from a Waterford point of view, but they competed well in that game. Beck Carton was hitting the lights out in that game. I thought Niamh Rocket was very good throughout the whole season last year as well. And in this campaign, they've taken that form into this year, and they've been absolutely brilliant in this league campaign. And they're in the league final now. And I think Niamh Rocket actually said maybe last year, actually, with the skirts and shorts thing, but this was another angle to it before the Munster final. She was saying a quote that kind of stuck with me, that Waterford don't barely win any trophies. So for them to get to a league final, to attempt to win a league trophy, I think that'll be massive for their confidence to win one.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously they have to face a side in the league final, and we'll see who it is. But yeah, it's a brilliant opportunity for Waterford to win a trophy, because when you look at Munster, if Cork were in their pomp, if Tipp were in their pomp, will they win Munster? Not sure. In the All-Ireland with Galway, Cork, possibly Kilkenny, if they gain a stride, could they win the All-Irelands? Maybe not, unless they break that glass ceiling in a way. But look, it's a massive opportunity for Waterford to win Camogie title. They've done well so far, but the thing is, from their point of view, grab this opportunity with both hands, because you never know from their perspective when they'll be back here again. So it'd be massive for Waterford to win that game in many ways. As for Kilkenny, weird enough stat, Aoife Prendergast got 12 points out of Kilkenny's 14. So I think that's quite concerning for Kilkenny moving forward in the championship. But yeah, it was a difficult result for them. But to be fair, they still have a chance for league final. We'll see how the last round goes in the next few weeks. But Waterford, it's a massive opportunity now for them to win a title.
Yeah, very, very interesting comments coming in here. Porter saying Waterford have every chance of getting out of Munster. Good team. Ryan also asks, All Ireland dark horse. Peter referencing there again, Katie Power, such a massive loss for the Cats. There's no question about it. But Waterford continue to move in the right direction, while other teams around them stutter a bit. Cork and Tipperary drew, Aaron, this one in Páirc Uí Rinn. Cork 2 goals and 8 points. Tipperary 1 goal and 11 points. Interestingly enough, with this result, neither side is safe from relegation, which is a bit crazy given the strength of both of the squads. Orla Cahalan and Cueva Stakelum both hit 1-2 for their respective teams. Obviously, Cahalan for Cork and Stakelum for Tipp. But interesting campaign for both of them so far.
Yeah, I think the result is probably nearly a reflection of how the league has gone for both teams. Like, it has been very hit and miss for Cork, obviously, with the start of the league. We thought they obviously turned the corner last week with the big victory. But yeah, another kind of setback maybe in some ways. But yeah, look, it obviously does go down to the final day, and that obviously will make it interesting, in fairness, in terms of obviously how it does pan out. But yeah, Orla Cahalan scoring 1-2, Saoirse McCartan with 4 points, Emma Murphy obviously getting the goal as well. So yeah, sounds like it was an entertaining game, to be fair.
Yeah, the clashes between Cork and Tipp are always very entertaining, but this one that we're moving to next in was a massive win for the current reigning All-Ireland champions, Galway. They went away to Cushenden and beat Antrim by a goal and 13 to a goal and 11. So it's back-to-back wins now for the All-Ireland champions. They got up on the board last week, and this week Niamh Mallon hit 5 points, leading the way for the Trials women as they get their second win. Roisin McCormack led the way on the Antrim side with a goal and a point. But for Galway, Matthew, they definitely have corrected what was a slow start. Obviously, certain things like the snowstorm keeping them in America for a little bit longer didn't help, but now they're up and running truly.
Yeah, and they'll get to a league final, I think, if they beat Cork on the final day. So fair play to Galway for that. But on 55 minutes, I'm looking at the Scorpio, it was 1-11 apiece. Antrim were level in this one, and they were ahead for most of the game as well. Like, to be fair to Antrim, a lot of people would have said they'll be certain team to get relegated, but they've fought very, very well, to be fair to them. And to be fair to Elaine Dowds, she deserves a lot of credit for actually getting the most out of this Antrim team, because they have a lot of potential. It's just about believing in themselves in many ways. Like, Roisin McCormack's a good player, Maeve Kelly, Lucia McNaughton, obviously Nicole McAtamy. Like, there are some excellent players in this Antrim team, and it's just about, I suppose, getting the belief out of them. And to be fair, they're still in the fight to avoid relegation, so they'll be going out to the last day and hoping the results go their way and they'll get results in the last day. I think they play Kilkenny on the last game. I might be corrected on that, but they could win that game. Like, Kilkenny are struggling themselves. They've had 2 losses in a row. So who's to say that Antrim won't survive in this league, obviously. But Niamh Mallon was very good. Carrie Dolan was excellent from a Galway point of view. So Murray Dillon got a point as well from a Galway standpoint. So yeah, good result for Galway. They're on the verge of a league final now if they beat Cork on the final day. And I think they'll want that. Colin Murray would want the trophy, especially after last year's league defeat in the manner that they got it against Cork. I know they won the All-Ireland in the end, but I think they'd want to get back to the league final and right a few wrongs in that.
Absolutely so. And then just before we wrap up on the episode, we're going to touch on as well the action that took place in round 4 of Division 1B and round 4 of Division 3A. There was only one game in Division 3A, but starting off with Division 1B, Dublin got the victory over Offaly in Abbottstown by 2 goals and 16 points to 9 points. Clare beat Down by 3 goals and 18 points to a goal and 9, while Limerick beat Wexford by 3 goals and 13 points to a goal and 11 in Cappamore. While the one game from Division 3A's round 4. Roscommon beat Kildare by a goal and 9 to 8 points in Ballyforan. Before we round up as well, I want to give a massive shout out to TUD, who obviously won the O'Connor Cup, beating DCU in the final. Incredible achievement. Congratulations to all involved on that one there. And that is all the action from the GAA world reviewed and recapped for another weekend. Peter here saying, lads, super review as always. Thanks a mil. Have a good week and see you Thursday at 8 p.m. We will see you Thursday at 8 p.m. It's been another really, really enjoyable episode. Thanks so much to everybody that got involved in the discussion, that watched the live stream at any stage and got involved in the live chat. It helped to make it another enjoyable one. For myself, from Matthew, from Aaron, we will see you all next Thursday live at 8 p.m. Until then, Torah.
Follow your instinct, baby. Follow your instinct.